I arrived on Karen Station with two possessions that mattered, a battered duffel bag and the stubborn belief that, somehow, humanity always found a way to survive. The station hung above the gas giant Caros like a jeweled scar, layers of metal, light, and ancient alien architecture fused together by centuries of conquest and commerce. Karen was neutral ground in theory. In practice, it was a place where empires watched each other blink, and freelancers like me tried not to get crushed between them. I had just finished a 14-hour shift unloading biogenic cargo for Yulari Merchant House. My muscles burned, my head rang, and my cred balance blinked dangerously low on my wrist pad. All I wanted desperately was a place to sleep. The transit concourse thrummed with life. Towering insectoid traders clicking in metallic tones, furred quadrupeds padded across illuminated walkways, and sleek, highborn aliens glided past in robes that shimmered with status markers I couldn't afford to recognize. Humans were rare here, and those of us who were foolish enough to wander this far from Seoul kept our heads down. I checked the station listings again. Every hab block within my price range was full, reserved, or mysteriously under renovation. The cheapest available room cost more than I'd earned all cycle. I sighed, leaning against a support pillar. Sleeping in public areas was technically allowed, but security drones had a habit of relocating sleepers into holding cells for their own safety. And holding cells charged rent. Great, I muttered. Evicted from the floor. That's when I felt it. A presence. Not threatening. Not loud. Just focused. I looked up and met eyes that were not human. She stood barely an arm's length away, slender and tall, her skin a soft opalescent silver that caught the station lights and scattered them like starlight on water. Her hair, or what passed for it, flowed down her back in dark, liquid strands, shifting subtly as if responding to unseen currents. She wore a simple garment by alien standards, a long, dark mantle with no insignia, no jewels, no visible tech. But her eyes, they were deep violet, luminous and ancient, and they were fixed on me with an intensity that made my breath catch. I straightened instinctively.
Ah.
Hi. She blinked, as if realizing she was staring. You are displaced, she said. Her voice was musical, accented, yet perfectly intelligible through the station's translation field. Yeah, I said, rubbing the back of my neck. You could say that. You seek rest, she continued. I'm looking for somewhere to sleep, I admitted. Everywhere's booked unless you're a duke or a warlord. A faint smile curved her lips. It was small, restrained, like someone who wasn't used to smiling freely. I can help you, she said. I hesitated. Years of survival on the fringe had taught me one rule above all. Nothing in alien space was free. That's kind of you, I replied carefully. But I don't have much to offer in return. She studied me for a long moment. I felt oddly transparent, as if she could see past my tired posture and worn clothes, past the years of conflict and loss etched into my bones. I am not asking for payment, she said softly. Before I could respond, she extended her hand. Slender fingers. Long, elegant. Unarmed. Come with me, she said. You will be safe. Every instinct I had screamed that this was a terrible idea. And yet, when her eyes met mine again, I felt something I hadn't felt since leaving Earth. Trust. I took her hand. Her quarters were not where I expected. Instead of the crowded civilian rings, we traveled upward, past restricted levels, past corridors guarded by discreet but unmistakably lethal sentry constructs. No one stopped us. Not once. Security systems dimmed as we passed, doors opening before she even acknowledged them. I tried not to gape. You lived up here? I asked. For now, she replied. The lift opened into a suite, that could have housed a small family. The architecture blended flowing alien curves with practical human angles, as if someone had deliberately designed it to be comfortable for multiple species. Soft lighting filled the space, warm and gentle. "This is a lot more than a spare bunk," I said. She turned to face me. "You are concerned." "Just a bit," I admitted. "I don't even know your name." A pause. "My name is Aelith," she said. "That will suffice." I suspected it wouldn't, but I let it go. She gestured toward a sleeping alcove. "You may rest there. It will adapt to your physiology." "You're really just helping me?" I asked. Her gaze softened. "Once, someone helped me when I had nothing but fear and duty. I have not forgotten." I nodded slowly. "Thank you." She lingered as I set my bag down, as if uncertain whether to leave. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "Why humans?" she asked suddenly. "Why do you endure?" The question caught me off guard. "We don't have a choice," I said after a moment. "We lose worlds, we lose wars, we lose each other. But we keep going. Someone has to." Her expression shifted, something like awe, tinged with sorrow. "You carry much," she murmured. "So do you," I said gently, "even without the jewels." That earned me a soft, surprised laugh. "Sleep," she said. "We will speak more when you wake." As exhaustion finally claimed me, I felt an unfamiliar sense of peace. I didn't know it yet, but that night, the course of 2 civilizations shifted. I woke to silence and sunlight. Not artificial station glow, but a carefully simulated dawn that filtered through translucent panels. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then memory returned. Alien princess. Hand-holding. Restricted levels. I sat up fast. Aelith stood by the viewport, gazing out at Karos. She had changed garments, still simple but lighter, more fluid. She turned as I stirred. "You rest deeply," she said. "That is good." "How long was I out?" I asked. 8 standard hours. I exhaled. "Haven't slept that long in years." She approached holding a small tray. "Nutrient infusion. Compatible with human biology." I accepted it cautiously. "You're very prepared for humans." "Yes," she said quietly. "I requested the data myself." Requested. Not purchased. Not stolen. Requested. "Aelith," I said slowly. "Who are you?" Her hands stilled. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she met my gaze fully. "I am the first daughter of the Lirathai Imperium," she said. "Heir to the Crystal Throne." The words landed like a gravity spike. I stared at her. You're the alien princess." "Yes." I laughed once, sharp and incredulous. "Of course you are." "You are not afraid," she observed. "I probably should be," I admitted. "But you didn't treat me like a subject. You treated me like a person." Her voice softened. "That is why I chose you." "Chose me for what?" "To remind me," she said, "that I am still allowed to choose." She told me then of the Imperium's slow decay, of ancient wars with humanity that had ended in uneasy ceasefire, of a throne built on tradition so heavy it crushed those born to inherit it. She was expected to marry for alliance, rule with calculated cruelty, and never show weakness. "And humans?" I asked. "Your kind terrifies them," she said simply. "You adapt. You endure. You love fiercely, even when it destroys you." I thought of Earth's scarred skies, of refugee fleets and lost colonies. "Yeah," I said. "That sounds about right." She stepped closer. "I am to announce my betrothal soon. To a warlord who sees me as a symbol." My chest tightened. "And you don't want that?" "No," she said. I want to be seen. Silence stretched between us, heavy and fragile. I can't save an empire, I said quietly. I do not ask that, she replied. Only that you stay. I met her eyes and understood the risk. I don't even have a place to sleep, I said. But if you're asking me to stand with you, I can do that. She smiled then, fully, brilliantly, and the station alarms began to howl. The coup was swift and clumsy. Lirathai loyalists stormed the upper rings, attempting to seize Aelith before she could address the council. Energy fire crackled through the halls as security systems turned traitor. I had no weapon, no armor, just a lifetime of surviving worse odds. Stay behind me, Aelith commanded, her voice suddenly resonant with authority. You sure about that? I asked, grabbing a fallen stun baton. Yes, she said, but if you must disobey, do so wisely. We moved together, instinctively. I redirected guards, sealed bulkheads, used the station's blind spots the way only a human spacer could. She issued commands in a language that bent machines to her will. When we reached the council chamber, the coup leaders were already there, arrayed in ceremonial armor, confident and cruel. You shame the throne, one spat, consorting with a lesser species. I stepped forward. She chose, I said. That's more than any of you ever did. Blades turned toward me. Aelith raised her hand, and the chamber fell silent. I am Aelith of Lyrith, she declared, and I will not rule through fear alone. Humanity will stand as equal ally, or I will abdicate and let the Imperium fracture. Gasps rippled through the hall. They knew she meant it. In that moment, the balance tipped. The coup collapsed, not with blood, but with resignation. Weeks later, Karen's station buzzed with rumors. A new alliance, a radical heir, a human advisor who slept on a princess's floor before changing galactic history. I stood by the viewport again, this time with purpose. Do you regret it? I asked. Aelith slipped her fingers through mine. No. Do you? I smiled. I was just looking for somewhere to sleep. She leaned closer. Then stay. And for the first time since leaving Earth, I did. Not because I had nowhere else to go, but because I had finally found a place to belong. The alliance did not form overnight. Empires never changed course with a single speech, no matter how powerful. What Aelith had done in that council chamber was not end a struggle, it had begun one. The Lirathai Imperium did not fracture, but it bent, and bending something ancient always caused strain. In the cycles that followed, Karen's station became the quiet center of the galaxy's attention. Delegations arrived daily, some openly curious, others thinly veiled threats wrapped in ceremonial courtesy. Humanity, long dismissed as fractured survivors clinging to the edge of relevance, was suddenly spoken of in council halls again. Not as conquerors, as equals. I watched it unfold from the margins at first. That was where I was most comfortable, standing near doors, reading rooms, listening more than speaking. Aelith insisted I attend every negotiation, every audience, every delicate conversation where centuries of prejudice had to be unlearned sentence by sentence. You see things they cannot, she told me once, after a particularly tense exchange with a crystalline envoy who considered emotions a weakness. You have lived without certainty, without safety. That gives you clarity. I wasn't sure I believed that, but I stayed, because staying mattered. Some nights, when the station dimmed and the corridors grew quiet, Aelith would remove the weight of her title and sit beside me at the viewport. We would watch Karos churn below, its storms endlessly destroying and recreating themselves. Do humans ever stop fighting? She asked one night. I thought about Earth, about the colonies we lost, about the wars we barely remembered the reasons for. No, I said honestly, but we get better at choosing why. She nodded slowly. Then perhaps your species is not violent. Perhaps you art unfinished. The Imperium tested her resolve more than once. There were assassination attempts, subtle ones, meant to look like accidents. A grav lift malfunction. A poisoned ceremonial drink. Each time, she survived not because of Imperial safeguards, but because she listened. Because she questioned tradition instead of obeying it blindly. Because she trusted me when my instincts said something was wrong. That trust changed things. It changed her. The day the Crystal Throne formally ratified the human, Lyrathai Accord, the chamber was filled to capacity. Aelith stood before them not in disguise, not cloaked in humility, but in full regalia, light refracting armor that sang with ancient resonance. She looked like an empress. And yet, when she reached the final clause, she paused. "I will rule," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "But I will not rule alone. The era of divine distance ends today. I choose advisors not by blood, but by perspective." Every eye turned toward me. I felt the weight of it then. The impossible distance from the cargo docks where I had started, from the nights I slept listening for footsteps that might end my life. I stepped forward, not as a hero, not as a symbol, just as a human who had endured. Afterward, as the station erupted into celebration and outrage in equal measure, Aelith found me again by the viewport. "You could have left," she said softly. "Many would have." "I know," I replied. "Why didn't you?" I didn't answer immediately, because the truth wasn't simple. "I spent most of my life surviving," I said at last. "Running from war, from loss, from responsibility. When I came here, I wasn't looking for destiny. I was looking for a floor that wouldn't kick me off." She smiled faintly, and instead, I found someone who didn't see me as disposable. She took my hand, not as a princess, not as a ruler, but as a woman choosing her own path. "Then stay," she said again. "Not because you have nowhere else to go, but because you choose this." I squeezed her fingers gently. "I choose this." Epilogue. Years later, historians would argue about the moment the galaxy truly changed. Some would say it was the signing of the Accord. Others would point to the reforms that followed, the dismantling of hereditary supremacy, the opening of imperial academies to non-Lyrathai minds, the quiet end of wars that no longer made sense. But I knew the truth. It began when an alien princess, disguised and alone, saw a tired human looking for a place to sleep, and decided to take his hand instead. Not to rule him, not to use him, but to walk beside him. And in doing so, she proved something the galaxy had forgotten. That survival was not humanity's greatest